Hello. How are you? Faye Bryant here with another daily devotion. Today we're going to be looking at 1 Samuel 2:2 and talking about the unrivaled, unequaled God. Before I get started, though, let me introduce myself. I am Faye Bryant. I'm an author, coach, and speaker who helps people just like you escape the lies of the enemy, live into God's truth, build a life worth living, and a legacy worth leaving. I offer opportunities and options for you to do just that, to start your journey toward those very things, escaping the lies of the enemy, living into God's truth, building a life worth living and a legacy worth leaving, all at my website, faybryant.com. You can check that out there. You can even set up for us to have a little coffee break time where we can talk about where you're at, what you want, and what's going to be the best way for you to get there. All right. Would you please share this? Let me know what you're thinking. Too, comment, let me know. Like this. Where are you watching from? Listen, if you're watching on replay, share with me too. I'd love to hear from you. Oh, okay. Is that it? That's it. Let's get started. All right. First, we're going to add this in so you can see the verse too. Yes. No one is holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. Doesn't that just make you want to shout? Oh, it's exciting to me. But let's get started with the devotion. Let's talk. Hannah had lamented for years her inability to bear children. Not only were her arms empty and her heart filled with sorrow instead of joy, her status in the community was lessened by her childlessness. She had gone to the tabernacle and prayed so passionately that the priest thought she was drunk. In that prayer, she promised that if God allowed her to bear a son, she would give him over to the service of the Lord from his childhood. God answered her prayer, giving her a little boy who grew up to become one of the greatest prophets of Israel, and he also provided her 6 other children. In the surrounding story, I see that Eli, the priest, had 2 sons who did evil. He didn't seem like the best choice for a foster father to raise Samuel, Hannah's little boy, but that's who God had in place, so that's who Hannah turned her son over to, trusting that she was giving him into the hands of the Lord. 2 very different outcomes, 2 sons who were destroyed because of their continued choices to pervert God's law for their own benefit. One son who grew to love God's words and hear from him on a consistent basis. When Hannah had weaned Samuel and delivered him to the tabernacle, she proclaimed these words: "No one is holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God." She had put her faith in the one who has no equal, no rival, no competition. She declared that God alone is holy, even as she was giving up her baby boy to God's service. Sometimes we have to do hard things, but even so, we can declare that no one else is holy like our God. We can proclaim that there is no one who can come close to competing with our God. We can stand on the truth that there is no rock like our God and the foundation of life that He is. There's strength in those declarations. There is peace in those words. There is hope in these truths. Strength, peace, hope, all found in the one who is unrivaled and unequaled, Yahweh. Praise Him in your circumstance today, believer. Trust that no matter what you face, God is willing to meet you there. Walk in the truth that God is without rival, equal, or imitation. Breathe in His strength. Experience His love, peace, and hope. Coffee, Bible, journal. Wow. There is so much in this. I don't even know where to start. Can you imagine giving up your child that young to serve God? Oh, that would be difficult, wouldn't it? But Hannah kept her word. God had kept his word to her, and she kept her word to him. That's something we need to really do. We need to really work on that. Faye, you really need to work on that. Talking about Eli and his sons, if you read in the surrounding chapters, you see that these guys were really horrible. And they suffered, they lost their lives because of the choices that they were making. They were choosing to take the law and pervert it, change it to benefit them. I'm not going to go into all of it. Just we'll say it that way. And Eli, the father, had to suffer along with them because he didn't put a stop to it. He was the priest. He was the high priest. He was the priest. And he could have stopped them from serving as priests at the tabernacle. He could have taken away their authority. He could have sent them away, whatever. But he left them in that place of authority. And so God said that he joined them in their sin. That's just a whole other lesson that we need to learn, right? But let's look at this. Let's look at the unrivaled, unequaled God. Who could cause a woman who simply could not get pregnant to suddenly become pregnant? It wasn't for lack of trying. She and her husband had tried. And then after that impassioned prayer, can you imagine praying so passionately, your words just flowing, not yelling? It says that he saw her lips moving and he thought she was drunk. There was such passion in her posture, her tone, even though he didn't necessarily hear what she was saying, but hearing the tone, the fervor with which she prayed, that the priest thought she was drunk. It's like, girlfriend, go home, you're drunk. And she's like, no, 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 you don't understand. I'm praying that God will do this for me. And then he did. Can you imagine Eli's face when she and her husband brought little Samuel back to him and said, we promised God that we would return him, that he would be placed into God's service. So here he is. I wonder what went through Eli's mind at that point. You know, did he think, oh gosh, I've messed up the other two. What am I going to do with this one? I don't know. I don't know. What Hannah decided to do, even in the face of doing this hard thing of turning her one and only, at that point, her one and only child over to God for God's service, she praised God. She was giving up that very thing that she had longed for, that she had prayed for. She was giving it up. She was giving this blessing up. She was giving this hope up in order to keep her word. Now, see, culturally, she would have moved up a few steps in status because she had a child now. And she was probably raised a couple steps above that because she had put her child in the service of the Lord. But even so, a mother's heart separated from her child so young, a brokenness, don't you think? But because of her obedience, God blessed her further 6 more times. Who else could do that? Who else could do that? Our God is unrivaled. There is no one and nothing that even closely compares. Nothing. And see, that brings up a thought. So often we think that Satan is the opposite of God, almost putting them on an equal plane, and they're not. They are not. God is God. Satan is a created being. He is not God. There's things that we attribute to him that are God things that are not his, and we need to be careful about that. We don't necessarily like to, but we tend to say or think that Satan, the enemy, the devil, can read our thoughts. Well, he can't. He's not omniscient. We like to think that he can see all things at all times. No, he can't do that either. The only way he knows what's coming is because he's read the book, the same book that you and I get to hold and read and consume. He knows what's happened in his past, and it's a long past. But he is not God. He is not powerful. He is not omniscient. He is not all in time. He's not omnipresent. That's the word. He's not. And we need to realize that he's just another created being created by God, not his rival. He's not God's rival. No, no, no. He's not his competitor, not even. Now, that's not to say that he doesn't compete for the attention of God's people. He does that for people, all people. He does that. But God doesn't see him as competition. And we need to not see him as competition. We need to see him as another being who's punching above his weight. We need to see him as an army commander who has this vast army that wants to accomplish something, but as much as he tries, as many battles as he wins, he is not going to overcome the Lord. When we recognize that, we are able to put him in his place, put us in our place where we belong as a child of God, and live the life that God created for us. Sounds really simple, doesn't it? Yeah, I know. It's not. It's not that simple, but it's the beginning. When we can get our minds set on the fact that God has no rival, he has no equal. There is no rock like our God. There is no one holy like Yahweh. No one. And our holiness is only through our salvation in Jesus. And through him, we get to experience that holiness, that right standing with God. We get to be able to enter his presence. Oh my goodness. I just want to run away with this. But what I want us to focus on the most, and I will leave you with this thought, is that there is no one else. No one else who can take God's place in your life. No one. No one else who can do the things for you in your life. No one else who loves you like God. No, no one. You might have a great spouse. You might have fabulous children, but they don't love you. Not quite like what God does. Yeah. So let's revel in this today. Let's do like Hannah did and lift our praise to him. There's no one like our God. There is no one like our God. No one like our God. And our God loves us. The Almighty loves you. And believer, follower of Jesus, he loves you so much, he died for you. And he did that because he has a purpose for you. He does. It's an amazing purpose, and it's time that you got to living it. If you're already living it, it's time to take a next step and get going on it even bigger, even more confidently, more boldly. It's time. It's time. Let's do it. I know you can. I know you can. No matter where you are, God's ready and willing to help you take whatever next step there is for you. And you can do it. I believe in you, but better than that, God believes in you. He does, and He is for you. And oh, goodness, if God is for you, no one can ever be against you. Ever. No one. Nope. No one. No one. Listen, I thank you for joining me, for looking at the scriptures, for seeing how it applies to our everyday walking around right here, right now lives. I really appreciate you. Oh, if you're watching on YouTube, would you be so kind as to hit the button that subscribes you to my YouTube channel, and be sure you hit the bell so you get notifications when these go live. And finally, go wherever God leads, do whatever God says, and be who God made you to be. Until next time, I'm Faye Bryant. Bye.